Hello, Sydney here, and welcome to the Drunken Orc. So, I'm going to do another showcase. Now, what I'm going to do is, these models, there's only two in this showcase. They're quite big, one of which is a bit standard, one of which is a little bit more kit bash, scratch built. But both of them, I found it difficult to get in shot, really, with the limited space I've got around here. So, I've taken some stills, some close-up 40s and what have you, photos, and I'm just going to show those and talk over them, explaining what's what. Now, the first one, to give you an idea of the actual models themselves anyway, in moving image, is this, which is my Burna Bomber. It is just a Burna Bomber. It's nothing particularly fancy. I think there's about 5-6 minutes on that. So we'll go into that in depth, in focus, more is the point. We'll do that, and then I'll jump back and I'll show you what we're going to do after that when we're up to it. So nice. Here it is, the Burna Bomber. So this is my Bad Moonz Burna Bomber. So I used some transfers on this and try to scuff them up a bit. I quite like the yellow. I don't like the yellows too bright, although when I do the shooters it generally looks quite bright. But on the vehicles I like to keep it a little bit more subdued. It was the first time actually I used an airbrush. Which I was absolutely bricking it. I don't know why. I just heard people whinging about them and what a pain they were, and I thought, do I really want to get down this? And I'd bought an airbrush, and it's not an expensive one. I think I paid about £30 for a really basic one with a little compressor block and brush, and that was it. It wasn't one of the big proper compressor. I thought, give it a shot, see how it goes. If I like it, brilliant, and if that turns out to be shite, well, stump up for a better one. But it's been alright, and it was a much better way to paint these large flat surfaces and achieve a smooth coat than I get with my brushes. Right, so that's the underneath. Nothing a bit grubby, a bit oily. Rockets were basic enough. A few checker patterns there on the fuselage and on the tail fins. And nothing special. A couple of replacement panels, dark grey panels. I've got an more up close shot of the rocket, so you can see. To be honest with you, I was going to do more. I was going to try painting little faces on them and all spirals and stuff, but they were the last thing I done. And at the end, I just got sick of painting rockets. To be totally honest with you, and I thought, they're out of sight. Maybe go back and do that at some point, but they were pretty basic. One thing I did do, which I've done I've said in the previous video, all the vehicles I paint tend to be death skulls, in one way or another. And what I mean by that is they're either blue, with white skulls on them and what have you, death skull colours, or they're Bad Moonz and Evil Suns, and they've been claimed by death skulls with a little blue handprint, generally hidden I say hidden, not really hidden, but stuck on the side, which Death Skull has marked that for the grots to go and grab later. Now on this, there's no handprint, but there is 4 streaks of blue underneath, where during a low altitude flyby from the Burna Bomber, some Death Skull's done a little jump and slapped it with his hand and just caught his fingertips trailing on the underneath. So that's his attempt to mark it. So yeah, that's what that is. So I didn't use the proper canopy for the pilot, if proper's the right word, because I'd spent a bit of time painting them, and you want to show them off. And so anyway, I just used the windshield. Get a close up. There we go. There he is, Mavrock, Top Gun, and all that. Quite pleased with these Ray-Bans, the way they turned out. These aviators, whatever you call them. These shades. So I was quite pleased with that in there, but even then I smashed up his windscreen a bit. But just took a big chunk out of it. There's some transfers on the left-hand side of it. The little bullet hole transfers you get with the Orc fighter bomber kits and what have you. But you've got to get that's as you can see, that's quite zoomed in and you can't really see. So I thought, right, I'm smashing the windows. That's it. I'm just putting them out. And that's what I've done with the grot as well, the gunner. Let's get him on. There you go. So you can see there he was He's also got his windows put out. I've got a few different views of that from the side. See the glass is smashed, basically because I didn't want to leave it off because I like the canopy. I think the canopy is really cool, but it was you could sort of make them out, but it wasn't totally clear. And I'm quite glad I did smash it all up, because it frosted quite a bit when I glued it in place, because I had to use super glue due to the rest of it all being fully painted and there's no bare plastic to glue to. But yeah, it worked out all right. Although it was quite fraught damaging it, because I was drilling little holes in for bullet holes and just snapping off little sections with pliers, and just basically smashing it up, but without fully smashing it up. What you can see there, just in between the two of them, I've got to zoom in here. There we go. The tally markings for the number they've shot down. I mean, it's so simple, but I think that's fantastic, folks. Look at that. What's that? 4, 7, 3, 1, 5, 4, 6. See, there's no rhyme or reason to it. They're just like, I've seen it done. Bollocks it'll do. Definitely lots. But yeah, I just thought that was fantastic. It was a transfer. I just stuck it on. I thought I've got to have that. That's another view for the crew there. Yeah, it's such a good kit. It is such a good kit. The scope you've got, the extra bits you get. I mean, those mech guns I picked up, which I've done an unboxing for and a bit of a work in progress video. They were just all identical, but with the pieces I got from this, the leftover, the extra bits, the smasher gun and the custom mega cannons and all that sort of stuff, you're really able to use a lot of those and other things. I've still got tons left over as well, plus all the super shooter barrels and what have you. If I do it again, I'll probably stick more guns on it, to be honest with you. They are pretty much followed the instructions for the most part. I kept close to it because it was the first one I put together, and I thought, if I get another one, yeah, obviously I'm just going to go off piste, so to speak. But it's a fantastic kit. Really can't recommend it enough. Yep. Well, that's the Burna Bomber. Big fan. Right. So what we got next? So that was the Burna Bomber. Next one I want to show you is this fella here. It's my Gorgonaut ish. It was, well, I'm not going into details. That's going to be when I show you some close-ups. But this is the next one. See, it's a bit awkward. Oh, look at that! Look at these bits. It's much easier with these stills. I don't know if you're liking it, if you think it's rubbish, or if you think it's great. I don't know, but let's have a look at that now. This is my Gorkanaut. I suppose it ended up as. I originally started it, I think it was April. I think there was a challenge on the Orc community on Facebook, and it was to build a Def Dread. No, not a Def Dread, beg your pardon, a Mega Dread. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll get in on that. I just really started, and I had a few ideas, and it just took us that long to get anything actually solid together. And I really struggled with the legs, because I spent a lot of time trying to source a pair of Gorkanaut or Gorkanaut legs, but I just couldn't get them from the bit sites and what have you. So in the end, I just kit bashed them. I say kit bashed them, scratch built them. Sorry. But the main idea for it was I had some old rhinos from the 90s and or 80s or whatever. They were the really old ones, so not the best kits, to be fair. But I wanted to use one of those as like a shell and have the head coming out the top doors on it, and the arms coming out of the side doors, the side hatches, and have it basically like a big turtle, a tortoise. Not looking like a tortoise, obviously, because it doesn't. But that idea, it was basically put on the rhino like a jacket, and basically start from that. So this is how it ended up. So just a quick shot from the front and the sides first of all. There's it from the left hand side. I'm going to do some close-ups on certain parts of it just to give a little bit more detail, but you can see there the left arm is like a big sort of rattler cannon or super gatler. I forget what they call it, to be honest with you, on the Gorgonaut, but like, you know, lots of shots there from that. You can see that. And on the other side we've got a big claw for ripping up and whatnot, but you can see better from the side. I think you can see the, you know, the shape of the rhino, all sort of sloped. That's the back of it with the exhaust and the vent, and it's obviously nose down, top forward, if that makes sense. And there's the back of it. So the back of it, because the rhino itself, I spent a bit of time trying to figure out what would happen with the tracks, because obviously the tracks are very static, and when it's when the rhino's lying down, you know, well, you know, as it should be, in driving mode, should we say, then the tracks are on the ground and therefore flat. But when it was sat up, I thought, well, the tracks would be sagging and they'd be hanging, and to be honest with you, it was going to be too much trouble trying to replicate that realistically. Plus the rhino wasn't very deep or high, tall, yeah, it wasn't the highest of vehicles, so therefore it wasn't very thick when it was stood upright. So I built a shell on the back, took the tracks off, took the wheels off, thought I'd use them for something else at a later date, put them in a bit box, and figured, you know, in real life, as it were, the Orcs would have had the wheels off, they would have had the tracks off. I built a shell on and just give it a little bit more depth, and that's, as you can see there, a little escape hatch at the bottom and what have you. So that's the back. Here it is a bit zoomed in, so yep, just weathered and battered. There's an armour panel there which has come away with apart from one rivet still holding it there, it's hanging. You can see some of the worky bits inside. They were actually cogs and gears taken from an AccuHaler, one of those asthma inhalers, the round ones, the disc, and they've got like a little clicky handle on the side. Well, I just smashed it open, well, prized it open, and took the bits I needed. There was a few bits from that on here, but the one thing I'll say about this sort of medical grade plastic is it isn't really a friend of poly cement. This plastic glues have a hell of a job trying to do anything with that. It does not want to melt. It does not want to bond. It will stick, but it's more just the clagginess of the GW plastic hanging onto it. If you give it a decent flick, it'll come off again. But they're inside, and you know, they're sort of wedged in place more than anything, so that's not too bad. And I think that's a door for Chimera. There's a little escape hatch. No idea where the little fuel tanks, little oxygen tanks came from, whatever the hell they are, but they're on there as well. And you can see, I don't know if there's an off picture of that, but you can see a little snotling hanging from a rope or a wire coming out the damaged panel on the back of the gun turret as well. Painted the snotlings, I think I painted them too bright green, and I wish I'd done them differently, to be honest with you, but there you go. There's the front a bit closer in. It's his mug, so I had to scratch build the head. Took a couple of attempts. You see the left eye is just another bit of that cog, just trimmed to fit. His eyebrows with a blob of green stuff in the middle, just painted like a lens. Flamethrower for the scorcher on it. Bits of the Rhino battering ram around his chin just for extra spikes. And there's a bit of, I think it's 40mm plumbing pipe on the back, just to add somewhere where you'd actually have the, you know, the crew, the driver sitting, so to speak. That's on the back there. These eyebrows as well, just a couple of bits of placky rod, but you'll see on the one above the green eye, he's got an eyebrow ring, because, you know, I figure Bad Moonz, Flash, give him some bling. So he's got his eyebrow pierced, and he's also got a chain on as well, which you'll be able to see in one of the later photos. But that's the front in a bit more detail. The dag work, that's just plastic car, just cut into spikes and stuck on it. It's all pretty basic, to be fair. A couple of horns added and what have you. You can see there. So there's his gun on. That's the turret off a Lehman Russ. The little orc sitting out the side. He is an orc. He doesn't look like it. He doesn't look right size, but he's an old Citadel orc from one of the crew from, I think it was a rock lobber. He's the one with the telescope, as you can see. So although the turret itself was from Lehman Russ, I used a different gun barrel. That is, it's actually a marker pen. Was the main barrel, and then I just got some plastic tubing really, and glued. I think it was six pieces round a solid piece to make like a little mini gun barrel, and then just got a very thin bit of, I think it was just actually an offcuts really, to make the brace that goes up the outside and across into the centre, and then repeated that 4 times, well 3 further times, and yeah, so a 4-barreled rotary cannon, like a revolver cannon, or like I say, whatever its actual name is, with a scope on top. And the way I thought about it was that, as far as orcs are concerned, the barrel spins, fires more shots, so let's have the whole housing spin to increase the number of shots again. So the whole gun itself spins, meaning the scope rotates around the whole thing at incredible speeds and is rendered next to useless. That's why you need to have a crew member hanging out the side of the telescope, just trying to have a say at what they're meant to be shooting at. It's not very accurate, but then again, neither are orcs, so it sort of fits in quite well. There's also little pendants and what have you hanging off the bottom of there, which were just the, I suppose, mud guards or track armour off a battle wagon. You get the little things you glue in just to sort of hang over the tracks a bit. I never put them on the battle wagon, sort of forgot a bit, and yeah, I used them on this a few times, scattered around it. Some Bad Moonz logos on it, and yeah, just had a little bit of extra decoration. And there's some plastic card dags. Next, that's just more the, I know it looks like the back, but it's more to look at the actual the roof bit. Just a platform on top really, with a little fence around it. There's a little ladder leading up and a little door coming out the back, and that's where some of the snot's hung around. There's the one who's actually half out the door with the saw. I had to do that because unfortunately when I tried to just pull him off his old base, he must have been arrow-dighted in place or something, and I basically pulled his foot off because I wasn't very careful. So he's actually only got the 1 foot, that's why the other one's inside the door. But I do like the little the snotlings. I think there's a lot of character to them. The one on the top there pulling faces out there across the battlefield and what have you, I think all look quite good. But like I say, I wish I'd done them a little bit less bright, a little more subdued green, but you know, there you go, doesn't look too bad. So on the right hand side where the claw is, I wanted an orc to be hanging out, so he is. As you can see, a little bit just cut his wrist and turned it, because you know there's nothing more gangster down there in flash and firing a slug out sideways. It really helps with the lack of accuracy. So that's just like to say a crew member sticking out of a hatch there. Excuse me. You can see the hatches themselves. You couldn't really see them on the other side, but I've left the doors on. It's open outwards. There's one opening up and one opening down, and just to the left of them on the shell piece, you can see a bit of cog that's poking through the housing. And the door above was off again. I think it was off the Chimera, and it had the Imperial Quiller on it. So that's been filed down and replaced with a very basic orc glyph instead of the 2-headed eagle or whatever the hell was underneath it. So the orcs just making it more their own a bit. But yeah, I wanted to look like the thing was stomping along with crew hanging out all over. Really, any orifice, someone's hanging out of it. That's the way to go. There we go, that's the claw itself. It's the lifter, is it a lifter or lifter dropper? Just grab a claw off the battle wagon. I didn't put it on the original battle wagon when I built it, so I had that spare, and it just fit perfectly into the hatch. So I just stuck it straight on. Really, there was nothing else more to do with it. I did give the claw an extra couple of grabbers. As you can see there, it's got the 2 main ones, which are sort of a coppery gold, and then it's got 2 additional ones which were cut from, it's one of the Death Dread combat weapons. I think it's a power claw. I think it's a claw, but it's got the little saw blades on. So I just snipped them off with the pistons attached, and it was dead fiddly. And I think I actually went through 3. It's not just the 2, because well, 1.5 actual claws, because the bit snapped off the other one, and I was determined that's what I wanted. So yeah, the whole bit there, the hook, the claw, the piston, and the mount are all off the off the original claw itself, off the Def Dreads. But yeah, I thought it was quite good. Big 4-prong claw. You have trouble touching his toes with it, but you know, that's the whole thing from the side, so you can see him sort of hanging out there a little bit better, and the claw itself. You can just see there as well, wrapped around its neck. You can see its head's coming out of the top hatch on the old Rhino chassis, or body work or whatever. So they're open. That's where the neck would come out, and there's a load of chains there. Basically, for two reasons. One, Bad Moonz, flash, chains, you know, bling. And secondly, there was a bit of, again, I think it was might have been 25mm pipe coming out from the neck, and it was just a 90-degree join to the back of the head, and it wasn't the cleanest of joins. I put a bit of filler in it and what have you to neaten it up, but in the end the chains covered it up a treat, and the hang had a perfect angle, just looked nice and blingy. So that's just a front view from the top half. So originally that was going to be the, you know, the rocket bombs of the Mega Dread, but since it sort of ended up being more in line with the Gorgonaut in size, they are, I was using that as a rocket launcher, to be fair. If need be, I can cut the end of a rocket off and stick it in so it's just peeking out, but I don't think that's necessary. But yeah, it was the Deathstorm Mega Shooter was the proper name for the for the big gun. It was originally meant to be a Rattler cannon, and then it ended up being a Deathstorm Mega Shooter. But again, I think you could probably run this as a Gorkanaut or a Mega Dread if you want to model for disadvantage, because it's far too big. Strictly speaking, I think the base size it's mounted on is the right one for a Mega Dread, because I went into a Games Workshop store at the Metro Centre in Gateshead, or down in Gateshead to me. I went in for something else, and I mentioned I was looking for a base for a Mega Dread, and he looked it up and said, "Oh no, this is the size you need." He went, "Hang on a minute," and he went in the back and he just came out with a base, and there you go, you can have that. And I was like, I've got something for nothing off Games Workshop. I went and put the lottery on. I didn't win, but you know, it was a nice gesture. Nice lad, appreciate that. Yeah, that's a good shot. That's the best features on the whole thing, to be fair. The big shooter, the crotch gunner. So there's a flap on the front hatch of the Rhino. It opens down right where his dangly bits will be, and there's a little grot there with a big shooter. It was taken from an RTLW kit off the shoulders of the Iron Boss, I believe he's called. Loved the little bit, didn't want to put him on that, used the rockets on that. So I had this knocking around as a spare part, literally. So that's where he's went. Couple of chains holding it, just to, you know, complete the look, so to speak. I was originally going to do it as a flamethrower. That's where I was going to put the Scorcher, but I just thought the image of it walking, you know, striding over a battlefield, just spraying hot fire from its groin. It was too good, and also too on the nose. Do you know what? It seemed vulgar. You know, it just seemed vulgar to us, and I wasn't going to do it. So instead, I just made sure his cock was a machine gun, as that's the more mature approach I found. And from there as well, you can also see the two what would have been crew hatches on top of the Rhino. They turned out to be its titties. I was going to put shooters on them, but I thought nipple guns. No, he's got a crotch gunner. Let's leave the nipple guns. Plus, to be fair though, they're quite out of sight from the normal view. So I just painted the Bad Moonz logo on one, and another glyph on the other. And is it the one for I think it's powerful, or I think it's powerful or big. Or might be the same thing. But yeah, a couple of orc glyphs there, and you can just see the chains there. It's not just one chain. There's about 3-4 links, not links, loops hanging down there. It's just a bit of real silver, you know, plated tin probably. I think I got about 10 yards of it off Amazon for about £4, and I've still got plenty left, to be fair. But there you can see the scratch built legs a bit more detail from that angle as well. It's just killer can shoulder pads for the knee pads. There's some Def Dread shoulder pads at the tops of the legs. Legs themselves were made out of Lego. The Bionicle set had a couple of joins, a couple of links, so I put those together to make the thigh and shin, calf. What's in between the shin and the calf? Lower leg, yeah, that. And some just scratch built boxes and shapes really for the feet themselves, with a couple of toe bits stuck on from the Def Dread kit again, and then some plastic hard armour. You might be able to see from the side, again just a slither of plumbing pipe because it's already curved. In fact, I've got a better shot of that in a second. But yeah, that's generally the point of view you get if you know a space marine would see as it was staggering towards them. So that's quite dramatic. There we go. You can see the curved bit of armour plate in there in the bottom, and you can see the leg a bit better. There's just some wire there, but it's pretty thick. It holds its shape for the cabling, but I still tied some chain around it just so it looked like it was holding it out the way around its thigh. Well, that leg's exactly the same. And on the lower bit of shin armour there, although it's like I say, it's a Bad Moonz GorkaNot, it's got the blue handprint, which means, just like everything else in my army, the Death Skulls have had their eye on it, and at one point in the future they're going to be making it their own. At least that's their plan anyway. So yeah, I like to paint a little blue handprint and anything that is not already painted as a Death Skull. There was a little attempt at a sort of a piston on there as well, but it's not really a piston because it doesn't look like it would pissed. I don't think that's a word, but it's just essentially a tube with a couple of caps on bolted on. But yeah, you know, it just adds a little bit extra bulk to the legs. I was just trying to bulk them out because although they still look quite skinny, they did look very skinny. And I tell you what, a good thing with the Bionicle stuff was, because it's very poseable, I was able to stand it with one leg, its right leg, bent. So the left leg's straight, or virtually straight, and the right leg sort of bent because it's standing on a big rock. And there it is, yeah, my scratch built walker. If you've got any old tank kits knocking about, you don't have to make them all into trucks. Hopefully this will give you some ideas. After this, I bought a Bane blade, and although I had a couple of mates who play Marines, one of them was very upset because, you know, I'm going to orcify it. It's not going to be painted up as God or anything Imperial, but the other lads were convinced I was going to turn it into another one of these. But that would be a big old walker. That, like, we're talking stomper size really. If you're going to stand a Bane blade up on its nose end and stick arms and legs coming out of it, and I think it's probably a little bit too big. I think that Rhino works out pretty well. But yeah, so that's my scratch built and kit bashed Bad Moonz GorkaNot. So that's my GorgoNaut. Yeah, the Burna Bomba and the GorgoNaut are both brilliant, like centerpiece models. I like the original GorgoNaut, the official one. Sorry, I will be getting one at some point to do as a GorgoNaut, but I like them to be quite different as well. I tend to spend a lot of time on them, and then at the end rush a bit. Like the rockets and bombs on the Burna Bomba were phoned in a little bit. Could have put more detail on, and the snotlings on the GorgoNaut were quite hurried. But on my defence, they're tiny. In fact, I mean, I've actually got one in my beard there, which I've just been going through. And you know, that's how small they are. Let's have a look. Toaster head. Oh, he's a big in him, mind. He's about 14mm. But there you go. I probably shouldn't have rushed them as much. Maybe one day I'll go back and redo them, but I doubt it. I hope you like them. Any questions? Fire in the comments. Any feedback in the comments as well. They're both, I mean, one was a straightforward kit, but the conversion was still quite early doors for me. I've not done a great deal of these before, so if there's anything I've done wrong, you know, be kind. And if there's anything I've done well, be very, very generous. Yeah, I'll have more stuff coming up. I think for my next showcase, I've only really got troops left, and then a massive pile of work in progresses. So I might go through some of my troops. I did just knock up a squad of tank busters over October, which was part of the stuff that I filmed and deleted in a rage, because I'm a fucking Ben. But there you go. So I think that might be coming next, although I have just received a delivery from Germany. So I might do an unboxing on that next. We'll have to see. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it. And give the bell a little tickle. I wouldn't want you to miss out. Thanks for your time. Take care. Bye bye.